Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We welcome you, whatever time and wherever in the world you are listening. We are pleased you have found us. You are now listening to Inside the Bunghole, a podcast taking you on a journey through wine. Together, we will learn more about this wonderful elixir of life. So raise your glass to welcome your hosts and partners in wine, Pam and James. You are now inside the bunghole.
Well, hello everybody. Here we are, another episode of Inside the Bunghole. And we are actually in our hometown, Palm Springs, California, at Boucher, but we are interviewing Sandra Gomes Rocha from Diniz, with a Z, Cellars, and she is producing wines out of Portugal. And of course, James here is with me.
Yeah, she's a woman on a mission. She is bringing to the world wines from Portugal, and it's going to be a great little show. So glad to have you.
Yeah, obrigada for having me here today. I had ambitions of producing all the wine, but I prefer to reach out to people who are making the wine in Portugal and say, you know what, you deserve to be in California. So we've been doing this import business from Portugal for about 4.5 years, me and my husband. I'm fully Portuguese.
Okay.
And it would feel crazy to be in California, which is the heartland of the wine mecca, right? Yep. So Napa wines are incredibly famous, they're incredibly delicious, and anybody outside of anywhere knows that Napa wines are the wines to have. So to have a Portuguese girl think that she can bring in wines from Portugal to be even in the same stage as Napa wines is a little crazy.
Who do you think you are?
You know what? Like you said, I am a woman on a mission.
You are on a mission.
I am on a mission.
How's it going right now? Because right now you're hustling it. You're here in Palm Springs, and you did a wonderful wine tasting, and there were great wines. Tell me a little bit about the wines that you brought with you in this instance today.
So today I brought 6 wines. The 3 of them are from the northern part of Portugal, from the Vinha Verde region. It's a region primarily known for their wet, cool climate, and the wines to be very refreshing and great acid-loving wines. And the 3 reds are from the heart of the country, from a region called Down, which is very Burgundian of a region, and then Alentejo, which is in the south of Portugal. So this is just an example of all the great things that Portugal is doing. Portugal has been making wines for over 450 years, and not until maybe the last 30 or so years that they actually have started to have an impact in the world of wine. So people are starting to know Portugal. First of all, there's a lot of travel there. There's a lot of excitement around Portugal as a country. And also people are discovering their wines. These are incredibly delicious wines. They're incredibly gastronomic. You can pair them with any cuisine, whether it's Asian or American, Mediterranean for sure. But these are also high quality wines at a value. So you can have, for example, one of our reds that retail for about $15. They taste closer to a $30 wine, right? So if you have someone that loves to travel, they love to try something new, you take them to Portugal and they're going to find their place, they're going to find their wines at a price point that's not so out of pocket, that's going to be almost cost prohibitive.
So how did you get into wines?
You know, I was a girl working in Hollywood, and I started with a bottle of white Zinfandel, and I wanted to know why Zinfandel was a wine, like most of us do. And I'm like, why is this wine? Where did it come from? How did it become, what it is? And then once I went down that rabbit hole, I just couldn't get out, right? I started to ask all the questions, like what makes Napa wine from French wine different? what are these varietals that I don't know how to pronounce? So once you start to ask all those questions and get into the nitty gritty of it, you have to keep going. You can't just stop. So Portuguese wines, I'm Portuguese. I found an opportunity. I felt that there's a place to bring in something new and authentic, and it's about talking to people and putting these wines in front of them and give them the opportunity to try them out and form their own opinions.
But you grew up with wine, though. Was your family drinking wine, or even before?
So I grew up.
It wasn't until you were in LA in a weird way.
No. You know what? So the Portuguese, wine to us is when you're sitting at a table for dinner. Wine is like another member of the family. It's there, and if you're 8 years old and your uncle's like, here, try this, you try it, right? There's not a lot of voodoo around wine in Portugal. It's at every meal. I remember visiting my grandfather, and if it was 10 o'clock in the morning, he was having his morning snack, he would have wine. So wine was always present. My grandfather, on my father's side of things, he had a little tavern in the village of Trás-os-Montes in the northern part of Portugal, where after all the villagers would go out in the day and do their field work, they will come back and go to my grandfather's tavern to have a glass of wine. So within my family, we always grew it, sold it, or drank it. My father, when we were living in New Jersey, he was the owner of a retail shop in the Bronx. So he was selling it, and I helped him sell it when I was in college. But I never had ideas or thoughts of having my own company.
Right.
It's just the fact that wine was always around us, and the fact that other people had experienced Portuguese wines.
Right. So, I mean, you go to a restaurant, you open up,
Yeah.
you always see Napa.
Yep.
You see
Italy, France.
Yes.
France, New Zealand, a little bit there on the
Sometimes Chilean.
Sometimes Chilean. So, are you starting to see Portugal wines?
Absolutely.
You are.
You really, really are. And I think what's really driving that is the heavy tourism. People who are going to Portugal and coming back.
It's crazy right now. We have several friends that are getting second homes there and falling in love. Absolutely falling in love with the country.
In 2016, Wine Spectator had a cover story, and they named Portugal the next wine frontier. So that was in 2016. But even then, there wasn't a whole lot of Portuguese wines, at least here in California.
You read it, but where can you get it?
Right. And you would go into a store. If you asked for it, most people didn't really know where to get it, right? So that's where I come in. So I go to wine shops, I go to restaurants, say, hey, I have Portuguese wine.
Woman on a mission.
Woman on a mission. And people are excited because it is something new, and again, because these wines are delicious and they're high quality, but they're almost made for people who want to broaden their horizons. They want to go beyond the borders that they grew up around. A lot of our customers are people who grew up with their family drinking Napa wines throughout generations, right? But they wanted something different, and Portugal gives them that. It gives you an authentic sense of place, but you also get delicious wines that you're not breaking your bank to be able to get. You can get a delicious bottle of wine for under $20 that is going to blow your mind.
Wow. There you go.
That's what I love about wines are that you can go to different regions and find different areas that, if you buy it from Napa, it's going to cost you $50-$60 a bottle. If you buy it from Portugal, it's just as delicious, and it's a third of the cost. It's like a half the cost. It's more than that. And they're great values.
Do any of the Portugal wines, do they do any steel?
How do they cask?
Yeah,
What's
at a
the-
cask, or is it all oak pretty much?
It's not all oak. They usually start in stainless steel, and some of them age in stainless steel. But you do have producers that, depending on the wine, depending on what they're trying to do, they do use French oak. Some of them use untoasted oak, and some of them actually use wood with a little bit of toast. So they do traditional winemaking practices, but you do get a lot of that steely quality, especially in the wines, the white wines, especially in the wines from the Vinho Verde region. You do get a lot of that high acidity, the minerality, the steeliness, and that's part of the appeal because they're really refreshing, and there's not one component that's overpowering. So you have wines from what they call, the New World, which Napa is known as the New World. That's a lot of fruit, it's a lot of oak, it's a lot of those rich nuances, pretty much front and center. With Portugal, you're leaning more towards earth. You're leaning more towards schist, towards whetstone, towards steel, and it's more of the balance of the wine with the inclusion of those great floral and fruity notes as well.
Wow. Soil.
So Portugal is more known for whites or reds?
Portugal is known first for port, which is a fortified sweet wine. It's high alcohol, and it's also known for Vinho Verde. But the Vinho Verde idea is more of a cheap throwaway wine, but Vinho Verde is both a region and a style. And wines coming from the Vinho Verde region, there's so many different styles, and you can have incredible whites that you can age for 3, 4, 5, 10 years. Just like you have those refreshing, you must drink them now, green wines. Vinho Verde stands for green wines. So the main things that Portugal is known for is port and Vinho Verde, but now we're trying to introduce more of these still wines, and there's just such a large range of wines that it's an incredible adventure just trying to try each one.
So they're growing everything kind of successfully, because I know it's region to region, climate to climate, but it seems like they're trying everything.
They are, and they're doing it in a way that's very educated. It's scientific. A lot of these new winemakers, they're these incredible winemakers coming out the woodwork. They're young 30-something, and they're doing incredible things with sustainability, with vegan wines, with natural wines. But these are people that are highly educated. They're masters in viticulture, and they've actually taken the time to go to a Napa or Bordeaux or New Zealand and work harvest there, and then come back and focus on what makes their land great. So they focus on the varietals that go on that plot of land in that region with that climate. And I have a producer in the Vinho Verde that he trains his vines for maximum output with minimum intervention. And all of that is a science, it's also an art. So they're really stepped up their game, and these are masters at their craft.
So they're like grape whisperers.
They really are grape whisperers. They really, really are.
I'm looking at a photo on your little art thing here, and I've never seen this, and I'm going to ask you this, and maybe it's just me going nuts. The vineyards that I'm looking at, they're at an arch. Is there a reason why they're not straight in a row? There's almost like a little rainbow of... Is that me, or is that...
So basically the picture that you're looking at is a picture of a vineyard in the Douro Valley. So if you've ever seen the Douro Valley, it's along the Douro River, and it has its curves and its ebbs and flows. So from this angle you see the curvature, but that's really the topography of the vineyard where it's set. So it's very rocky, it's very curvy, so it's almost impossible to have a straight line.
Straight line. So
correct.
So they grow the vines at an arch.
Correct. And these vineyards, because they're so steep, they were carved by hand hundreds of years ago, right? Even to this day, they're harvested by hand. They don't use any machines because the topography just does not allow for it.
And it sounds like the winemakers it's the first time I've heard them, for me, is 50-50. The soil is just as important as the grape.
I don't even think it's 50-50. It's 100-100,
Really?
right? You can't have one without the other.
Right.
And historically, winemakers in Portugal were more humble farmers. Now you actually have almost engineers, right? So they're taking a plot of land that traditionally had a field blend of varietals that were mixed depending on what they had available at the time. But now they're being more purposeful, and they're studying the soil in terms of its health, in terms of its microbiological activity, in terms of its water retention, where the sun is rising and falling. So all of that, all of those components really come into play when it comes to them trying to figure out the kind of wines they're trying to produce and the varietals that work best within that soil, within that field.
Well,
within
and
the soil, within the field, within
the region.
It's a very microscopic way
Yeah.
of
Well,
seeing.
we're going to take a break, but when I come back, I want to ask you now, what do the farmers, the winemakers think of you when you come into town? Because they know you are the peddler. You're peddling stuff. So I just want to know how you're treated, I just want to know that angle when you arrive. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. You are listening to Inside the Bunghole.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!
So welcome back. We are still inside the bunghole, and we are talking about Portuguese winemaking and
Bringing it to America.
and what we can find out more about it, because it is an affordable, beautiful wine. You can get it anywhere, right?
Almost.
You can get it almost anywhere. It's starting to pop up more so than it used to be. I think before you probably had to go to a specialized boutique wine shop. Now you can walk into a major grocery store and find more popular brands. So it's starting to pop up a little bit more than it used to be maybe 10 years ago.
So before we went to the break, you were representing, and I want to know, have you been back to Portugal since you embarked on this whole journey?
And how you were treated.
Yes. So I have been back. In fact, we started a company. We brought it in our first mixed palate in the summer of 2018. And we're now actually up to a full container in just 4 short years. And we have been back. The only time that we didn't go back was during the pandemic. So March of this year was the first time that we went back. And I got to see both producers that started out with me 4 years ago and new producers that I started to work with that we only had a FaceTime relationship with. And the thing about how I was perceived or how I came across to them is that I'm a Portuguese girl that grew up in America, so I have very much my American ways, right? America is the Mecca. Everybody wants to be here. Everybody's goal is to have their wines in the United States, right? With such a large market, such an important market. And these Portuguese producers are no different. The thing that I had to navigate was my approach to these producers, because in America, we're very much like, hi, I'm so-and-so. I represent so-and-so company. This is what I'm looking for, right? But in the Portuguese culture, and this is something that I completely forgot, is that there has to be much more of a romance, right? It's more like, how are you? How's your family? How you been? All the questions, all the soft questions,
No
right?
business.
No business.
Yeah, you need a little massaging.
You do.
Yeah.
You need a little zhuzhing, right?
Yeah.
And the first time that one of my producers called me out, he's like, the first time you reached out to me, you're like, I'm so-and-so, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm looking for. And I was just so shocked by that. So I knew that I had to go back to my roots and go back to the family dining room and be like, okay, this needs to be a little softer, right? Like we need to come in and be like, hey,
Family.
like we're family, right? We all have the same purpose, but also we honor what you're doing. We love what you're doing. It's beautiful, the product that you're putting out, and we want to be a part of that. We want to be an extension of that. So when I'm talking to my producers, it's more like making sure that they know that I am Portuguese first, American second. But America is so important to me and to us that I am your representative here. I am your agent. I'm your voice box.
Right.
And you're going to take care of them.
Yeah, it's just more about like, I want you to succeed. because it's important to me. It's so exciting to me when I put a glass of Portuguese wine in front of someone who's never had it, and they're so amazed by what they're having, right? And I love seeing that expression time and time and time again. And I'm still at a point, and Portuguese wine is still at a point where it's still really exciting for folks, right? And not a whole lot of regions have that excitement. So what I want to make sure is that I communicate as well as I can what's happening here. I love calling my producers and say, hey, we just had this event, and the response was incredible, right? And this is what they said, and they're so exciting, and they can't wait to go to Portugal, and they love to hear that because their success is my success, right? But at the same time, it's like, I want to be honest and transparent. The American palate is very American. They have the things that they like. So my job is, how do I find things that people like? And how do I bring something new to the table that they're going to recognize, but that's different?
And can relate to. Like
Right.
the first wine that was in the wine tasting today was an orange
Orange wine.
Orange
Orange
wine.
wine.
Yes.
Which, I mean, when you say orange wine, you expect a citrusy bang, and it wasn't that.
No.
But it was a subtle. The color of it was a little orangey. It was a
Yeah.
beautiful wine, but it was certainly not American. It was you knew that you were
Fun.
drinking something else.
Yeah.
Very dry on the tongue real quick. It was
Mm-hmm.
the palate on it. It was a fun. All the wines were fun. We can go through all the wines. And then I never heard some of the grapes that you were talking about, which
So-
I must think that that's indigenous.
It's
Is that the
foreign.
word? It's foreign.
Yeah, it's foreign, but we all love our Chardonnays, we all love our Pinots, we all love our Cabs,
blah
right?
blah blah. Yeah.
However, there are 3 of thousands of varieties out there,
Yes.
right? And
Yeah.
Portugal has over 250 native varieties, right? The leading red, for example, is Touriga Nacional. It is basically our version of a Cabernet Sauvignon.
Right.
It's a bold red wine with grape with incredible structure, and it's the backbone of all the red blends in
Okay.
Portugal, regardless of where you are,
Say
right?
that one more time. What is the name of it?
Touriga Nacional.
And are any grown in California?
There's some
For
being
real?
grown in California,
Really?
Texas, Washington. You're starting to see it here in the United States.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's another very popular grape grown?
So another one, probably my favorite, is the Alvarinho grape, which most people know it to be Spanish, right? But the best place, and maybe I'm showing my bias here, is in the region or the sub-region of Vinho Verde called Monção y Melgaço, which is right across the street from Rías Baixas, Spain. And Alvarinho is a queen white grape in the Vinho Verde region, which is the northwest. If you were to look at a map of the United States,
Yeah.
Vinho Verde is essentially Oregon and Washington.
Oregon and Washington.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's rainy, wet. You have that ocean.
Close to the
oceanic-
ocean, yeah.
Right. So those wines tend to be very fresh and citrusy and minerally as well.
When you're doing your hustle, selling, getting the wine back into the States, I imagine it gets more expensive as it travels and gets taxed and the bottle just keeps going cha-ching. Where you're going, I'm trying to get this on the table for a reasonable cost. It's starting to go up because of that whole. What is that journey like? And by the way, this is amazing that you had a glass of wine in Los Angeles and then you started this journey. This is very bizarre.
You know, it's like I just grew up with Portuguese wine, and all the parties that I went to growing up in Jersey, they always had the same white wine. It's called Casal Garcia. It's one of those really big white. They're everywhere, right? And for the longest
And
time,
Jersey's not New Jersey, like Jersey Shores.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's its whole thing. And for a long time, I thought that Portugal only made that wine. So if I thought that, and I'm Portuguese, I'm sure there's a whole lot more people that think the same thing. But yes, the process of getting a wine from Europe to California is a lengthy and costly one, right? And what we try to do is to place things in a way where they still show a great value, but they're honest to the supply chain, correct?
Yeah.
And for us, it really comes down to education. And we want to show you why this wine that is relatively inexpensive, and maybe is a couple of dollars more expensive than it was a year ago, right? But why that matters and why that happens, but at the end of the day is, are you getting the quality of the wine from the price that you're paying? And even though everything all over the world has gone up, it's not just an American problem. Inflation is real in Europe as well. It affects everything that we do. We are still able to show incredible value in our wines.
There's a lot of pride there, by the way, in the winemakers.
Yes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And that brings me to, if you because there's tons of interest in Portugal right now. There's not only is it a beautiful place to live right now, they're offering Americans citizenship opportunities,
Healthcare.
Yeah, really good stuff. A lot of people that I know are
Some good soccer.
I don't know about their soccer. I know you would.
Their soccer is really good, actually.
Yeah.
It's
because they drink the grain wine.
Portuguese wine is the kind of wine that people are curious about, but they do need help and guidance in trying to find the right bottle. So when I have someone that never had Portuguese wine, I like to ask them, okay, how do you drink? What do you drink? If you drink a Pinot Noir, for example, one of the wines we had today was from the Down region. It's 4 varietals. There is no Pinot Noir in it, but because the region itself is Burgundian in style, it has characteristics that people will recognize as a Pinot Noir. So I start with, where do you live? And let me introduce something that's similar that will still allow you to explore a different region that you maybe haven't before. So it always just starts with, and I want people to go to their wine shop and say, hey, where's your wine, your Portuguese wine section? It might be very, very small. For every 10 bottles of Napa, you probably have 2 Portuguese bottles of wine.
But growing.
And I think that these questions are coming from people who have gone to Portugal, or people who know that Portugal exists and they want to try something new. They want to broaden their borders and just be excited and try something that isn't a Cabernet Sauvignon, or that isn't, a Grenache, or that isn't a Sauvignon Blanc.
And how do the Portugal wines pair with food?
So I like to say that as Portuguese, we love food. We love to eat. When we're having a meal, we're already thinking about when we're going to have our next meal. And because we love food so much, all of our wines are incredibly gastronomic. So Portugal is a small country, so you have anywhere from, seafood places to very heavy meats focused regions. And all of those regions have all sorts of wines that pair incredibly well with all those dishes. So Portuguese wine has a earthiness and an acidity that pair really well with any cuisine, whether it's Asian, whether it's Mediterranean, Italian, of course, Spanish. And really, you can pair a bottle of Portuguese wine with, with Panda Express or with a Dodger hot dog.
Right.
It's just, you're not going to find a bad combination for sure.
Except toothpaste.
Except toothpaste. I wouldn't recommend that. I haven't quite figured out how to pair that yet, but.
So we'll take a break. We'll come back. I want to find out how I can get a hold of you.
We're gonna wrap things up.
And find out if I'm more interested in Portuguese wines, where do I go? So we'll be back in just a flash and find out how you get in touch with Sandra.
Great.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
With the woman on a mission.
With Sandra
mission.
Gomez Rocha. So now, if I want to find out more about the wines that you are representing, or just find out more about Portuguese wines, how do I get a hold of you, and where do I learn more?
So the first thing I would say is that if you guys are interested in Portuguese wine, even if it's not mine, walk into a wine shop and ask for Portuguese wine, because just walking in and asking the question lets the proprietors know that they need to call me, correct, if they don't have Portuguese wine. If they don't have a Portuguese wine there, you can always go to Diniz, Diniz Cellars.com. We're also on Instagram, Diniz Cellars. You can also shoot me an email, Sandra.Gomes with an S, Rocha at DinizCellars.com. And
that'll be in our show notes.
yes, please. It's a long name.
Well, you should be very proud because they're wonderful wines.
Thank you.
And if anyone has not had any wine from Portugal, you should be jealous.
Go grab yourself
Yes.
a bowl of the beans with the what is it pair best with, do you think? What's like a
Sardines?
good
Don't you
what's
guys
like a
eat sardines?
great Portuguese meal that you have to have a Portuguese wine with?
Oh my God, there's so many. One of my favorite meals is it's called leitão. It's basically a suckling pig. It's a baby pig that's been roasted, and the skin is super, super crisp.
Crispy.
So you usually would have that with the spumante, with like a really frizzy, basically our version of a champagne, right? You can have that with a sparkling Portuguese wine. You can have that with a vinho verde, and it's just so homey. Portuguese, we're very proud. We will tell everybody that we're Portuguese and where we come from, but we're also very humble, right? And I just grew up with, my aunts and my grandmother and my parents. If anybody ever walked in through the door in our house, the first thing we'll offer is a glass of wine and literally a cheese spread. It's almost offensive to walk into a Portuguese person's house and not be offered something to eat or drink, right? So, and that's another cultural point that I had to learn. When you're in America, that's not so much thing, right? But in Portuguese culture, we will feed you until you say no more, and then we will feed you some more. But we just want to show our love for our food and our wine and our culture and our people, and we just want people to feel happy.
Well, that's a beautiful note to end on.
Absolutely.
That is, and that I'm going to go to Portugal.
It was nice meeting you.
Likewise, thank you so much.
It was nice having wine with you. Thanks
yes.
for inviting me to have wine.
Well, thank you for coming, guys.
Yes,
This
absolutely.
is so good. I'm just so humbled and blessed that you guys give me the opportunity to speak to your listeners. So thank you so much.
Well, you're on a mission, and you're doing it.
Thank you.
You're doing it. You're knocking it out of the park.
I
Okay.
appreciate
So
it.
Diniz Cellars, DINIZ Cellars.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. She'll answer you.
For sure. Obrigada, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time we'll hear you next time on Inside the Bunghole.
Ciao.
If you want to know more about Inside the Bunghole, join us on all our social media platforms. You can get a revisit and view all the latest posts, giveaways, and information on this podcast. Simply search Inside the Bunghole on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment. We would love to hear from you. Or you can email us at insidethebunghole@gmail.com. Thanks for tuning in, and visit our website at insidethebunghole.buzzsprout.com, where you can always find our latest podcast and past episodes. Cheers!